Hello, guys. So today I'm going to basically introduce you to who I am, what's the main purpose of my channel, what things I've been working on as I try and sort of build my portfolio and learn new skills related to ways in which I can sort of enhance sort of the functionality of AI governance. So how did this all start? Well, I'm not actually a software engineer. Around 6 months ago, I couldn't write any code, and honestly, I still can't really. But I had this problem I kept seeing. I'm AIGP certified. I've spent quite a bit of money on ISO standards, and I just keep watching sites like LinkedIn and other social media and seeing organisations struggle to understand what AI governance is and where to start. The regulations are moving so fast: EU AI Act, ISO 42001, and NIST. And they're all happening at once, and companies just can't keep up manually. So I kept thinking someone should build something to help with this. And then eventually I stopped waiting for someone else and just started to try and figure it all out myself. And not because I had some grand plan, it was more because I couldn't figure out why it didn't exist yet, as you're already seeing this take place in the GRC space. So the first question I asked was pretty basic: how do I even run these assessment tools without remembering complicated commands every time? Again, remembering I'm not a coder, and to be honest, I don't want to remember all that stuff. So I found this framework for building AI-powered assessment patterns. But again, I'm not someone who can remember command line syntax. So I kept asking, can I just make this simpler for myself? And that's how I ended up creating these little scripts, which are just wrappers around the commands that I kept forgetting. Then I connected them to buttons on my Stream Deck XL. 24 buttons I've got in total now, with all different functions, and each one runs a different assessment. Click a button, get an assessment, that's it. And it sounds simple now, but figuring that out took me longer than I want to really admit. I kept asking, why can't I just click something? Turns out I could, I just had to build it. So the actual harder part was building the actual assessment logic. The first one I started with was the EU AI Act risk classifier. And this is the one that tells you if your AI system is prohibited, high risk, limited risk, or minimal risk. But I didn't know how to build it at first. I kept asking questions like, where do I find the actual classification criteria? How do I know I'm interpreting Article 6 correctly? And what if I'm just getting this wrong? So I went back to my documents, the actual AI Act PDF, the ISO 42001 standard, and I searched through them for the exact sections that I needed for this particular pattern. Found Article 6, found Annex 3, copied the text, put it in a reference file. Then I built the assessment logic using that, not from memory, not from blog posts, but from the actual regulations and standards. And every time I built a new assessment, I'd ask, am I using the real regulatory text here, or am I just guessing? And that basically became my process for all 22 assessments. Figure out what regulatory section I need, find it in my actual documentation, copy the exact text, and build the assessments from them. And then finally test to see if it all makes sense. Now, some of them worked right away. Some I had to rebuild 3 or 4 times. For example, the stakeholder consultation one, I scrapped the first version completely because it wasn't using the right ISO sections. Then I hit a different kind of problem. So I would ask myself, well, how does a client share their AI system details with me? And I think I can't just say, I'll email it to me, because it's not secure enough. And it kind of contradicts everything I'm supposedly helping businesses to comply with. So again, I asked myself, how do professional auditors actually have confidential information transfers? And it turns out they can use secure infrastructure. So I decided to build a form on AWS S3. And here's how it works now. So a client will fill out the form, it posts to an API endpoint, gets saved as a JSON file in my S3 bucket. I get a notification, then I download it with a command. No email, no third-party file sharing services, just form S3 my machine. Now, did I know how to set that up initially? No. I kept asking, how do Lambda functions work? What's an API gateway? And why isn't this working? Obviously, there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of rereading AWS documentation till late at night, but it kind of works now. So at first, everything was kind of manual. I'd sit down, run an assessment, review the output, and generate a report all locally. But I kept thinking this should be more automated. So I started asking, can I schedule these assessments to run automatically? Can Event Bridge trigger Lambda functions? How do I get ECS containers to process things without me clicking anything? And to be honest, I'm still figuring this part out to make sure that it's running as efficiently and smoothly as possible. But now I do have Lambda functions that process incoming assessments, ECS Fargate running analysis in containers, and Event Bridge scheduling regular checks. Some of it runs automatically now, some I still trigger manually, so it's just basically a work in progress. So here's what this process has taught me when it comes to building tools for governance. Start with asking basic questions. Don't pretend that you understand something when you don't. I spent weeks asking Cursor, what is an S3 bucket? How do .bat files work? Why isn't this pattern giving me the right output? And also use the actual source documents. I can't stress this one enough. So when I try building assessments from memory or internet sources, they just don't work and they're unreliable, which we can't really risk in this particular job. Make it simple for yourself. If you can't remember syntax, make Stream Deck buttons. If something's too complicated, break it into smaller steps. Again, I'm not trying to impress anyone with elegant code. I'm just trying to get assessments to run. That's the main objective. It's also okay to rebuild things. I've rebuilt several of these assessments completely. Again, the first version of the stakeholder consultation one was wrong, so I scrapped it, started over, and that's just part of the process. So I don't have this all figured out. I'm still learning AWS. I still can't write Python without help. But what I do have is 24 working AI governance assessments that actually work as intended. And I built them by asking, a lot of basic questions to Cursor and Claude and feel okay, with not knowing everything. And in a nutshell, that's it basically. That's the whole of my journey so far, trying to automate or engineer AI governance. In our next episode, I'll walk you through more of the technical details, the Stream Deck setup, how the assessments are actually structured, what the AWS infrastructure looks like, and how the whole system runs day to day. I might also show the specifics of the process, what worked, what didn't, and what I'm still trying to figure out. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all then.